Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to the part two. We were just in the middle of something very interesting, but we had to stop for a break. I wanted to ask you, well, both of you, but I'll start with the Sheikh. What are bringing it back to the aspects of polygamy? Can we talk about the pros and the cons? Because there are obviously pros and cons in the context of living in the West.
Sure. Everything in Sharia that's permissible has wisdom behind it and has a particular purpose, but it has a specific usage. So it is not for everyone, but it has certain applications, and that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because we always say, I know it's a cliche and everyone knows it, but Islam is a way of life, it's a constitution for the well-being of human beings in this world and the hereafter. So we need to have solutions. And therefore you have widows, you have orphans that need to be looked after. You have these particular cases. For instance, as one of the advantages is that, polygamy allows them to be looked after financially, psychologically, emotionally, for the widow as well as the orphans, for someone to really support them. Yes. You have, for instance, people who are living in particular different parts of the world, and it's hard to have one relationship. They want to have wives in different places. For instance, as example, you have the cases where there are ladies who simply want to be looked after and protected and share a house and to be in a marital relationship, but they just can't find somebody, and they're happy in a polygamous relationship. So that has its usage. But also the downside or the restrictions is financially is draining, emotionally is draining. It is sometimes very difficult to keep the bond with the first wife when an individual marries a second, because they're more inclined towards a new relationship and so on. It affects the children negatively, when they see that. It sometimes breaks families. It creates discord and a huge number of issues. I remember reading that, as Sister was saying, within the Ahl Sunnah community, our brothers and sisters, certainly in Europe or in the UK, this is more on the increase. And I was reading articles about how some of the sisters saying, we're happy with that, or we're okay with it, that's part of life, we've just settled for that. But I don't think it's as easy as they've portrayed it to be. I think it's much more difficult. And I think it's very complex, but it's specifically in the West. You see, let's be honest, naturally, and I think Surbi will probably add more to that, because it's naturally, a female wants to be looked after and protected by one man and doesn't want that shared with others, in the sense that it's, there's a whole theological discussion about Jannah, and the men have hur al-ain, and what do women have? I know that's a separate discussion, but some of the scholars actually say that as far as females are concerned, they're not looking for numbers. They're looking for one person who will look after them, and that gives them the most satisfaction and happiness. That's the idea, that in paradise, it is not like the way men have been created, so to speak. That's one theory, at least. So if we put that into practice, in reality, especially in the West, many of our sisters struggle, and it's a very difficult concept to accept when it comes to polygamy and their husbands marrying a second wife, simply because they feel that that's betrayal, they feel that they're not good enough. Only if there are specific reasons, like for instance, they can't have children, or sometimes they allow. But these are rare cases, not the common.
Excellent point, Sister Ruby. Bearing in mind that there are an abundance of women in the Western world, and it seems to be a shortage of Muslim in terms of the Muslim community in particular. But I just wanted to throw that out there before I ask you your perspective on the pros and cons of polygamy.
God, okay, right.
In relation to it's all in relation to this letter, but we're exploring it in a wide sense.
Well, as we know, Allah has created provisions for every, anything that we need. And polygamy, as the Sheikh has discussed in detail, there are reasons. Also, the man might have needs that one person cannot fulfill, let's just be honest, put it on the table. But I don't think most women wake up one day and say, oh, I would love to be in a polygamous relationship. We're not even programmed as children. Your parents don't tell you, oh, you're going to become wife number 2, 3, 4, whatever.
That's not part of the fairy tale.
It's not part of, no, it's just not. A woman wants to be the queen of her own house and have the attention of, most of the time, one male. Now, I have friends who are in polygamous relationships who are very open about it, and it does work for them. But there are challenges, just human beings being competitive. Oh, you sat next to her, you went to dinner with her, but I needed you to fix the roof, just an example, but that was your time with this one. Well, Eid. Are we all going to go to the Eid prayer together? What will the community say? Are we going to have like a commune? How is this going to work?
Well,
and then the children.
We have 2 or 3 Eids nowadays, so I mean, if you got
so you go to a different centre, you're saying, go to this one with number 1, this one. You know, people talk. And I think what it is sisters feel, many sisters feel inadequate, that they're not seeing, they internalise the fact that their husband may want to use that Islamic, what should we say?
A proviso?
Proviso, yes, and internalise it as something's wrong with me, or I'm older, or they see it as a betrayal. I think it takes a certain type of woman to be confident in herself and in her Islam to say, if she wants to, okay, I'm okay with that. But I think many sisters going back to this letter who are divorced almost feel insulted that you're married and you're just coming to me as if I'm some charity case. And by the way, does your wife know you're approaching me? And who else knows? Who else have you spoken about this? Because if I reject you, is this my last chance? And if I accept you, am I going to be seen as a home breaker? You know, a home wrecker, sorry. So you have all these things. And for many sisters, you know, you're trying to be on your deen, you're trying to do everything. And then you really have this hope where Allah is going to come through for you. You know, He says He creates people in pairs. Where is your other half? Oh, it's somebody who's married.
Well,
brilliant.
Because of time, I'm thinking we're going to have to move on. But just in summary, I'd say that we inshallah, that we pray for the sister. Maybe it's part of a test.
That's a word we hate hearing.
Can I just mention, we haven't offered her solution.
Exactly.
Let's
just
quickly,
yes,
we've talked about polygamy, but we really haven't talked about what can the sister do in actual fact. First of all, let's be absolutely honest. It's not about whether we don't like that word or whatever. Exactly. Different people go through hardships and tribulations, and it's actually better for themselves. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says there is not a single human being that won't go through this universal law of calamities and bala and tests. Each person has their own way. It's the way we deal with it. We can't say, oh, is this punishment or is this a test? Well, God wants to see for yourself. He knows how you come out of this examination. That's the first thing. The second thing to bear in mind is that the Almighty subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to struggle in life and to keep working and not to give up and to be positive and to have that sense of hope that this will be achieved. Now, it's beautiful that we have narrations from the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam that say that an individual who really entrusts their affairs in God, when they ask God, they absolutely believe that their haja is right next to the door. You know, it's there. Once they open it, it's there. That's the one who entrusts God and knows if it's good for them, Allah will give it to them. They're so confident in the Almighty subhanahu wa ta'ala's wisdom that, you know, whatever's happening, but it's not that they're sitting at home thinking, okay, you know, I'm going to entrust God and whoever comes. No, that they're striving, they're working hard. Practically for the sister, what we encourage her to do is, in addition to what she's doing, to approach scholars. Because sometimes what happens is scholars are aware of existence of few people who are looking, and they get approached. They're like, okay, I'm looking, do you know anyone, and so on and so forth. That would be a good idea, so that, you know, at least if they're known to scholars, then the scholars one day, a few of them in a local community, whatever, if they come across somebody who's looking, immediately they can recommend them and put them together. The other, my humble recommendation to the sister is, I know she has children and it's difficult, but to be involved in an Islamic organization or a charity or a project, that comes with a lot of barakah, it comes with a lot of thawab, but it also comes with a lot of tawfiq. These are three things, tried and tested, of those who serve God for the betterment of humanity, and Allah does not abandon them. You know, how many times people have been in these setups and they've found their potential husband and things have worked out for them. And even if they haven't, they shouldn't go there for that purpose. They're going there to serve God the Almighty and to make a positive contribution in society. However, things open up for them.
Yes.
People say,
one of the blessings may be.
Maybe, but it is a very good possibility. But because they're making a difference and they're there, people saying, okay, they're very active, they're taking part, this, that, and doing whatever they can in making a good contribution to society. So that's what I would also recommend, and also seek the assistance of friends, relatives, people, sisters.
Network.
Speak to them. Don't be afraid. You know.
And
So it sounds like the sister's on the right.
And if
track,
she finds someone who believes, she knows that he's not married or he's looking, let her not be hesitant to go and ask him directly, because that's a taboo thing as well. Sayyidah Khadija proposed to the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Could you repeat that for?
Yes. The point is, today we see this unfortunately, this sometimes cultural, I don't know what it is, inclination to idea that, the lady, the female has to be asked herself, she's waiting for that man to come and propose. Whereas it goes across the board. A female at university who's 19 and sees someone who wants to get married, she needs to go to her father and say, you know what, I need to get married to that person, or I want to propose to that person. Can we do that? Under Sharia, everything is acceptable.
This is permissible, yes?
Absolutely. Sayyidah Khadija did it.
Okay.
Sayyidah Khadija is the one who proposed to the Prophet.
Only because of time, because we could just get in this one. But please summarize, sister, and we're going to move. Just in a sentence, please.
In a sentence, okay. That's wonderful, but as we all know, in reality, that's a different thing. If I was to approach, giving myself as an example, a brother or his dad, I would get a reputation of being loose. In our community, a lot of people do. Sheikh, you've got to admit, in our community,
don't
if
worry
I went
about
to
the
someone's
reputation.
dad,
in the sunnah, but it's something that we have to work on in terms of as a
put
community
your trust
to
in God.
destigmatize.
Don't worry about reputation.
Inshallah.
Put your trust in God.
oh, God.
Just because of time, let me get to the. This is good. Get to the third and final letter, inshallah. It reads, I am engaged and soon to be married, inshallah. I love my fiancé. He is loving and caring. I'm very much looking forward to being married and looking forward to married life. However, I feel hesitant because things don't always pan out as expected in marriage, and marriage can be difficult. Some things inevitably do not work out. I mentioned to my fiancé that within our marriage contract, I want to stipulate the right of divorce. He was very defensive and almost gave the impression that this would most definitely not be put into the contract. I still want to marry my fiancé, but I want to have the right to divorce as well. What do I do? If I don't have the right to, if I don't have this right stipulated in our contract, can I still initiate a divorce if things go wrong?
It's a very common problem this day and age. This whole discussion is about what's known as the prenuptial agreement or contract before marriage. And the idea that has emerged recently is because, unfortunately, there are things that are happening in marital life that people didn't expect before marriage, and then they're stuck or they're not aware of what to do. Personally speaking, as just a brother, I strongly recommend prenuptial agreements. It helps us, makes our workload less, and the reason being is because of the rise in relationships that some of the men are undertaking within the marital life, outside, with other women, for instance, which is not in agreement, which is not something that their wives are happy with, or doing things which are completely against what they set out initially to do. So if there is something that is agreed upon beforehand, it helps frame. The Quran tells us in Surah Baqarah that if you have a loan with anyone, make sure you write it down. Everything is set. Today we've learnt in the West that everything is legally, stipulated and binding and so on. Now, what are the Sharia stipulations as far as divorce is concerned? Normally, under the normal contract between the husband and the wife does not have the right for divorce. normally. Except in certain circumstances. For instance, if the husband is not fulfilling his Islamic obligation in marriage, so there are a number of obligations upon him, such as looking after financially, such as the intimacy, such as a few aspects. If these are not fulfilled, then she can go to a jurist or a representative of a jurist or a marja and initiate this complaint. And he makes the investigation. And after a while, if the husband is not responding, then he, the jurist or his representative, can then make the divorce happen. But not the wife. The wife can't do that. She doesn't have that jurisdiction or authority in a normal relationship. Now, in a prenuptial, what they could stipulate before the marriage is to say, look, if for instance, you marry another wife, or you undertake temporary marriage, or we go to another country, I have the right to have divorce. Doesn't end the marriage, because what happens is the husband gives her the wakala. Wakala means representation. He's the only one who can issue a divorce, in addition to a jurist, but jurist is only in certain circumstances. He gives her that right based on the fulfillment of certain criteria. If that happens, then yes. So then what happens if, God forbid, if they're having this relationship, marital relationship, they enter it, and then he is found to be married or has broken that, then she has the ability. She just goes and says, look, he's broken it. The marja or the jurist doesn't have to go through all the investigation. Just finds out, has he done it or not? Hasn't done it. Okay, do you want to divorce? Doesn't end the marriage. She can just continue, but she has the ability to. She has the ability to. So it gives her, empowers her with the opportunity to keep the understanding and the mutual relationship ongoing, as opposed to what we find in this day and age. Some of our sisters are really stuck and they're so down. They're like, okay, I didn't know my husband was like this. He did this. What are my options? What can I do? And marriage, within marriage, in other words, as we just said, polygamy is permissible, and it's not enough as a criteria to initiate divorce. It is not enough. Yeah, muta then comes into the specifics. So according to certain jurists, the husband is permitted to undertake temporary marriage within, if he's already married, a full permanent one, marriage, to a Muslim. But if it's a non-Muslim, he has to seek the permission of his Muslim wife. But if she's a Muslim, he doesn't need to.
Sister Ruby, I have a question for you related to this letter, because it sounds as if the sister's worried about being trapped. Apart from the clause potentially being empowering for her as a woman, do you think that maybe sisters like herself who are thinking about getting married, preparing to get married, sisters who are engaged, they need some sort of counselling or preparation from a woman's point of view?
I think both couples need.
There's a couple they do, but specifically from a woman's point of view.
I think prior to marriage, there needs to be some, mentors or scholars or whoever, who both sit down and speak to the individual. So you have a female who's been married or is married, who gives her the lowdown of what marriage is really like, and what her rights are. Because sometimes you feel embarrassed. I think the poor sister, she really does want to marry this brother, but she's almost scared to initiate her having that clause, which is her right Islamically, because there's time invested in it. What will people say, etc. But I think if the brother is, inshallah, God-fearing, and they're genuinely going in this with the best of intentions, what is there to fear that she puts in the clause to secure herself? What is there to fear? It doesn't mean that she's going to use it like a get out of jail card, like a bail bond card. It's just a stipulation to say, God forbid, if things get messy, then I have my back covered. Like insurance, car insurance.
Sounds good. What does he have to fear? A lot of the young brothers that I speak to, they say, in regards to that point, if it was necessary, Allah would have put it there. Women can be so emotional. I'm worried that she just reacts on her emotion and just why didn't Allah put it there? So I don't know what you're saying.
That's why you have to have certain criteria. So if these criteria are met, or if they're violated, then that's when the permissibility or the idea is given to the wife to initiate, not just for the sake of just having her.
So there is a right, but it's specific. And so what the brothers are asking, young brothers sometimes say, what Allah would have put it there in the general sense, just for anything, you know, I'm unhappy about this, so hey, khalas.
Well, he's given us provisions, as the Sheikh has said. We can use our brains. Let's not be afraid to use our common sense and put those things there as a protection. And if he really does love the sister, what's the harm in having things covered? I don't like this impression that brothers have that women are erratic, emotionally crazy beings. We're just going to come out there and say, I want a divorce. Yes, there are some women who do that. But generally, you've invested time, energy, you're trying to please Allah, you're trying to do the right thing. It's very difficult for someone to, most of the time, come up with a decision to divorce. It's not something that is fun and games, especially Islamically, if we're trying to please Allah. It's not fun and games. So having that provision is to our gain. We're not children where we're going to say, I want this, I want this. So I'm kind of a bit insulted by the brothers. Some of the brothers.
I don't think this is insulting. I think what it's meant, just in defense.
For the brothers.
Yes. Not because I'm one of them. But just to say that, of course, we have to be clear in that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whether we like it or not, this is not in any way, astaghfirullah, sound sexist or anything like that, but there has been this authority given to the males and not the females in the marriage to initiate the divorce. That comes with wisdom. Why is that? Why I think that's the key, that's the point that some of the brothers are saying. Okay, why from the initial stage? Why, as the case in this country? In this country, both the husband and wife can say, oh, I want the divorce, end off. There's no, and a lot of sisters find that difficult to understand, I feel, from the discussions I've had. They're like, okay, but why can he initiate divorce and I can't? Why? What's wrong with me? You know, I'm also in a position I should be able to. And the normal response is, okay, you can, there are provisions, as we mentioned, and you can put yourself in the position, provided, I keep repeating, provided that there are certain elements that are transgressed, certain issues that are not abided by. But I don't want to go into this discussion of idea of the gender differences and stuff like that. Each creation of God comes with its powerful blessings and what they are good at. Women are better than men in many aspects, and men are better than women in some aspects as well. This idea of men and women are the same is wrong. In the West, it's been espoused, drilled, categorically placed in people's minds. They want to make sure males and females are the same. No, they're not the same. In the eyes of God, yes, equal in the sense that the most important or the highest is the one who is pious or God conscious. But each comes with their own responsibility. It's like me saying, okay, excuse the example, but cucumbers and tomatoes are the same. But they're not the same. Oh, why are you discriminating against carrots? But the carrots have purpose and cucumbers have another purpose. They're vegetables at the end of the day. That's right. Overall, they're vegetables, but each has a particular different color, different usage, different way they're eaten, and so on and so forth. Just a simple example. So when it comes to marital life, there is a reason why the husbands have that permission or have that, jurisdiction or authority, and the females don't. Right. But that's not to say that there is a deficiency in the females. It's because they're being empowered by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with this powerful, very useful ability to show love and compassion and to express their warmth and kindness much better than they are great. This fallacy of the husband or the man can be take the role of the mother, as we see today. That in this country they've changed the laws as far as the paternity. Yeah, so what we can do now is the wife can go work and the husband can stay, and he will get paternity for 6 months. The wife can go work. You see what they're trying to do is they're trying to mix the roles and the responsibilities. That's problematic. That's problematic in many ways. We're not saying it's haram, it's not bad, but we're trying to change the creation of God. That's how God is created, and that's how things are presented
It's
for
an
the
order,
well-being.
natural order,
Ahsan.
right?
This is
Yeah.
an order.
Yeah,
Allah
yeah,
wants
yeah.
it this way.
Yeah, yeah.
And He knows He's our creator. He wants to. But this is not discrimination. This is not gender attacking or somehow sexism or trying to place one above the other, as has been presented by some feminist movements and the Western values to say, oh, you know, there's Islam, this doesn't allow this, and so
For it
on.
to be fair, it must be mathematically equal.
Yes, it's everything. Oh, why is this right here? Why is that right not there? And so on and so forth. Why is that? And you know, you get to stages, some other sisters fall into that trap and they start saying, oh, but yeah, it's true, you know, we're concerned about Sharia law, it's male dominated, it's a male market out there, you know, those kind of things. We have to be careful not to follow the same terminology as what the others outside Islam wants us to and accept as far as the teaching.
Maybe the
Can I bring this?
brothers,
Okay.
maybe the brothers need to be, you know, acting out what they should be doing, and the sisters wouldn't have this complex. And what I was just thinking was, maybe the sister needs to tell her fiance and his family,
Yeah,
if you had a daughter,
go forward?
if you had a daughter in your family who was getting married, wouldn't you want to make sure that she is secure and that she has an insurance policy behind her should anything happen? Because I think they feel intimidated by, oh, maybe she wants the big wedding, the God forbid whatever else, and after that she wants to call it quits and take her dowry and thank you very much. But she needs to come at it in, I think, a humble way and just say, if you had a daughter, you were daughters at one time, wouldn't you feel secure if, you know, one of your own had these provisions? And then get a big fat permanent marker and just write it in the clause, and then there you go.
How would you advise him if it was he needed to, just from another perspective, he needed to assure his wife, hey, there's nothing to worry about?
If there's nothing to worry about, let her put that in her clause. Actions speak louder than words. People change. You get emotional. You know, someone says something. No, I never said that. I don't remember what you said. No. Let's, you know, let's be positive. It's not a bad thing.
We have the clause, isn't it, when we take out a mortgage, your house will
Exactly.
be repossessed if you don't keep up the payments. How is it that when we sign the mortgage agreement, we're like, excuse me, that's, I don't like that. You know, that's insulting to me, or that's
Exactly.
suggesting that
My
I'm gonna not
character.
make payments. You are actually
Exactly.
insinuating that I'm not a good, you know,
Honourable person.
repayment person,
Yeah,
honourable
yeah.
person. You're questioning my trust. No one says that. It has to be there because not all human beings, far from it, are perfect or at least trustworthy. So what we need to do practically for this brother, I think in a number of ways. First of all, he must not see this as a threat. What some brothers see this is that like, oh, hold on, you're taking away my right. You're taking away something that I am being entrusted by God. You know, how could that be? But it's not. Things change. We're in a different climate, culture. In the 21st century now, in the West, things are different. You know, there are many ways in which breakdowns happen. There are many obstacles out there. So we want to reduce them. We want to keep the relationship as harmonious and as strong as possible. So there are provisions that we can follow. But the other thing we can do is, for the sister, my humble recommendation is that she tries to encourage maybe people who are close to him, like his friends or his parents or even a scholar, if she's really feeling if she's feeling strongly about it and he's strongly against it, not to allow this, God forbid, to break their relationship. That would be a really shame, you know. Sometimes shaitan can get in the final stages, you know, and really cause havoc. So to be aware of satanic you know, ways and whisperings, and to try and solicit the help of people who can explain it in a calm manner. Sometimes when it's the spouse trying to explain, the husband or vice versa will just block and say, no, I know where you're coming from. But when it comes from someone else, they may accept it, or they may slowly get to grips with it.
And that's why I said go to the women in the family, his mother, his sisters, his grandmothers, and just humble yourself and just say, you know, what would you do in my situation? You can get a lot more done with love and being nice than being, no, this is what I want, what's wrong with your son, it's not fair. You know, women be smart.
Education, understanding and awareness.
It has been a pleasure. This episode has gone so fast. Thank you so much, Sheikh Hilly, Sister Ruby. The time has gone like that, but thank you ever so much to the two of you, and thank you for staying with us for the duration of It Takes Two. Assalamu alaikum.
Do you need some relationship advice? Do you have marital problems or questions? Perhaps you want to get married and you have questions for us. Please send your thoughts or questions to ItTakes2@sophiatv.com.